Welcome to A Guide to Every Deck in Modern. Today we're looking at Emeria Brought Back. Emeria Brought Back is a mid-range ramp deck that's all about ultimate value. Anyone who's played against a deck like Elementals, where Risen Reef draws approximately 3,000 cards, will get the gist. The deck is stuffed with enter the battlefield trigger value cards like Wall of Omens, Mulldrifter, and Solitude, along with their all-reliable friend Ephemerate. Then, to go further over the top, Elesh Norn Mother of Machines doubles up on all the ETBs. But this is nothing new. As I said earlier, we've seen decks like Elementals and Bant Soulherder before that are all about grinding card advantage. The key difference is that this deck has a much better way to accelerate into the usually late game value plan. Brought Back and Heartless Summoning ramp into the big value cards much faster than decks in this archetype typically do. With Brought Back, you can play a fetch land on turns 1 and 2, then crack and return both, accelerating you from 2 to 4 mana in your white deck and getting to 5 mana by turn 3, just enough to start hardcasting Mulldrifter, Solitude, and Elesh Norn. Brought Back can also act as a second Ephemerate to bring back the Evoke Elementals. Heartless Summoning does basically the same thing, although in some ways it's better since it reduces costs of all creatures, meaning you can potentially use it to play multiple expensive creatures on the same turn. The -1 it gives is hardly relevant since the creatures you're playing are valuable because of their ETBs, not their stats, and the plan is to bury the opponent in card advantage. Mulldrifter is the MVP here since between itself, Blink Effects, and Elesh Norn, you can easily draw 4+ cards a turn for sometimes as little as 1 mana. And then there's the late game. Once you get to 7 planes, Emeria the Sky Ruin starts reanimating a creature every upkeep. If your opponent isn't on exile-based removal, it's impossible for them to grind through reanimating card draw or removal every turn. Some versions splash into red for Avalanche Riders and can blink or reanimate it as another route to victory by strip mining the opponent multiple times. Emeria Brought Back is the most over-the-top battlecruiser deck in the format, and few decks can compete with its late game. That said, what are the deck's weaknesses? Like Elementals and any other value-based mid-range pile, it doesn't fight well against decks that operate on a non-creature-based axis like stack-based combo or ramp. It can struggle against decks like Storm, Scape Shift, Calibrated Blast, or Tron. It's susceptible to graveyard hate that shuts off Brought Back and Emeria. Because it relies so heavily on ramping into its bigger threats, it can be out-tempoed if Brought Back or Heartless Summoning get Thoughtseized or countered. And lastly, the deck is heavily reliant on ETB triggers, so effects like Torpor Orb hit it hard. Tips and tricks. Elesh Norn doubles every ETB trigger, not just creatures. This includes Leyline Binding and Idyllic Grange. The reverse is also true, where she shuts down ETBs from opponents, including things like Binding, Valakut, and Amulet of Vigor. You can use Grange to pump Solitude for more lifelink or get creatures out of burn range. If you have Heartless Summoning out, Elesh Norn's toughness drops to 6, which is low enough for Unholy Heat to kill her, but you can save her with Grange. As usual, you can save an evoked Mulldrifter or Solitude with Ephemerate and can draw cards from Mulldrifter to see if you draw into one before it dies. You can also bring back either card with Brought Back. While Brought Back will usually be used to ramp from 2 fetch lands or return Evoke Elementals, you can use it on other things like Avalanche Riders dying from its Echo trigger, or returning creatures that die from removal or blocking. While the first Heartless Summoning is good, you almost never want to play a second one since it means you can't stick or blink any of your 2 toughness creatures. Emeria's trigger targets, meaning any creature you want to reanimate has to already be in the graveyard at your upkeep, and your opponent can snipe them in response with cards like Unlicensed Hearse. I hope you've enjoyed this look at Emeria Brought Back. Thank you to my supporters, and if you enjoy these videos, consider supporting the channel, and take care.